Hi, everybody. My name is Jason Chapin, Director of Workforce Development at the Westchester County Association. Thank you for joining our video chat today, and it's going to be a great chat. I'm very happy to be here today with David Kessler, the CEO of CohnReznick, and Stephen Harrison, the office managing partner in the White Plains office. And they are going to be sharing their expertise and telling us lots of great things. I also want to thank our platinum sponsors at WCA for making this possible. All right, so we have a lot to talk about, and there's a lot of things going on, and what we want to do today is focus on remote work. And I'd like to start with you, David, to really divide this into two parts. We know what the world was like pre-pandemic, and I know that CohnReznick had a remote work policy in place. And if you could tell us about that, as well to tell us about some of the adjustments you've made now that we're in the midst of a pandemic and adjusting to all of that.
Sure. Thank you so much, Jason. Yeah, it's interesting how things have changed from just 3.5 weeks ago. Prior to the pandemic, CohnReznick did have a vibrant remote workplace strategy, and we have 100% remote with some employees that work in geographies where we don't have offices and will commute to clients when we need them to commute. And then we also were very, I think, proactive with a work-life balance strategy and encouraging people to work from home 1 or 2 days a week or as needed. And then, shift to where we are just starting 3.5 weeks ago. And when we first started to think about the remote workforce prior to any action with people being required to work from home, our COO and head of technology wanted to do an experiment, and they asked everybody, please sign in at 9 p.m. from your homes and let's see what happens. And we had about 1,000 of our 3,000 employees do that, and it worked out pretty well. And then, of course, fast forward just 3 days after that, when all the states started declaring the work from home. And we've been doing it successfully now into our 4th week with 3,000 people from all over the country and through other parts of the world working remotely from home. So it's been an interesting experience and a lot to get used to, as Steve and I have felt firsthand.
All right, great. So, Stephen, if you could tell us some of the things that you've experienced in the White Plains office, that would be great.
Sure. Although maybe we've been better prepared than most, I don't think anyone was completely prepared for the COVID-19 crisis. There's simply no playbook out there to follow. So let me walk you through some of the events of the last 4 weeks as it pertains to the White Plains office. On Friday the 13th of March, we mandated that everyone work from home. We allowed everyone to take their office laptop and monitor screen home with them. We were able to transfer the calls coming into the office directly to the home computers through a technology tool called Jabber, which is a product of Cisco. Jabber also allows you to call each other directly through the computer. And prior to this pandemic, I barely ever used Jabber. Today, I use Jabber every day to communicate with my teams within CohnReznick while working from home. It's very easy to use. You just start dialing, typing the name, the contact, and the numbers come up. You hit a call button, and it's all through the computer. So it's pretty neat. Initially, some employees had difficulty logging into the systems from home because it was new to them. But our support team has done a great job at getting everybody up and running. Today we only have one person who goes into the White Plains office on Monday and Thursday of each week to primarily deal with the mail. Communication and flexibility is the key in managing a remote workplace. Initially, I had daily conference calls with top management of the firm, then with top management of the Northeast region, and then with the employees of the White Plains office. Our goal is to over-communicate with our people. And since we have multiple offices, we also wanted to make sure our messaging is consistent throughout the firm. The way we manage the office has not significantly changed. We continue to have our weekly scheduling meetings for both tax and audit engagement teams, and I review the staff productivity reports on a daily and weekly basis. However, the biggest issue is that there's much more concern of how the individual team members are actually doing. I could look at a management report that tells me they are still proactive, but how are they really holding up? It's very difficult not being able to see them in person. We recognize that people are not living normal lives right now. And I think we'll talk about this topic a little bit more on this particular discussion. So, again, the communication and flexibility is the key. David provides his weekly voicemail greetings to all employees firm-wide, and I continue with my daily emails and weekly conference calls with the White Plains office team. The other thought is that this communication is equally as important to our clients and other key relationships. Clients are experiencing the same or greater disruption, and we want them to know we are here and ready to help.
So that's very interesting that you have to be very in touch with your clients, and you also have to be very in touch with your colleagues, and you have to monitor how they're doing and provide assistance whenever possible. And so CohnReznick is one of the largest tax, accounting, and business advisory firms in the country. So you're looking at things from different perspectives. And David, if you could share with us some of the ways that you've been conducting business from a remote work standpoint, and what information you've been sharing with some of your clients and some of your colleagues, so that everybody can get over the anxiety of making this transition and making the most of this time that we're in, and helping each other through it.
Yeah, first, Jason, it's a new experience, as Steve said, for everybody. And we would be remiss if we didn't thank all the healthcare workers that are out there. We see it on the news, and we have loved ones that are experiencing pains, either themselves and employees as well. So the first thing, that we were very cognizant of was only having people in the workplace that was absolutely necessary. And we were very serious about that. And I think now everybody understands and is sensitive to that. But 3 weeks ago, it was hard for everyone to conceptualize that, no, you can't be in the office. And so, our office services has been doing a fantastic job. We monitor anybody that goes in there through their swipes. We want to be prepared for anybody that needs to be in the office. We have people coming in and getting mail and checks and dispersing mail to all of our staff. As it relates to, throughout the firm, our employees coordinate and collaborate throughout the firm with each other, and they're using our technologies and our tools, whether it's WebEx or Microsoft Teams, and they're doing video calls. And one of the things is we're trying to mix in socializing as well as the workflow that needs to happen. So we have video happy hours, and I've been invited to video happy hours throughout the whole entire firm. So, it's great. I start at 6 o'clock on the East Coast, and then it goes, at 9 o'clock on the West Coast. And then we have calls throughout the world as well. I was on a call through our Nexia affiliation of global firms, and we had people at 6 in the morning all the way up to 10 o'clock at night in Australia. But as it relates to clients, we have to be very cognizant of the environment that the client is in as well. A lot of them can't come to their offices, and we're dealing in a remote environment with keeping the workflow going. And then, of course, we're so involved lately on all of the CARES Act relief that's available to small businesses, to medium-sized businesses. And we've been spending a lot of time helping companies try to figure out how to access some of this relief. And that's what's been keeping us busy. But the remote environment, we're all getting accustomed to from a personal standpoint. And the technology's been great, and I have a feeling there's going to be a new paradigm with people taking advantage of working remotely more in the future. Unfortunately, it took this type of circumstance to let us realize we could do it.
All right. And Stephen, I know that you are very in tune with your colleagues and you're always trying to stay connected with them. And I know we were talking earlier about some of the things that your colleagues are doing during the day in order to stay connected and also to make sure that they're not overwhelmed with everything that they have to handle right now. What are some of the things that you're doing that you would like to share with others?
Sure. You know, we all should, there's a heightened awareness of the stress to our people brought on by COVID-19. You know, people have loved ones who have tested positive. People are finding it difficult to work from home and are struggling a bit. People fear being terminated from employment. People miss the social connection that is now lacking, and everyone has cabin fever. So we're trying to figure out how to lighten up the mood in the situation. You know, David had mentioned a couple of items, but one thing that we actually put into place this week, we're requiring a daily 1 hour break from 3 to 4 p.m. each day in White Plains office. No employee meetings are to be scheduled during this 1 hour break. It's meant to, you know, spend quality time with your family or take a walk outside and without feeling guilty or pressure while not working.
All right. So do you have a virtual water cooler?
That we do. You know, it's on our intranet. It's a place for people to post items of interest and, again, to bond with your colleagues. You know, with all of this, we still need to keep up with the continuous and timely feedback and recognition for our people. You know, we need to stay current with the performance evaluation process. We still need to promote the Spot Awards program, and we need to continue to schedule meetings with performance coaches. And we need to do all this virtually. One other item, it's a small item, but it's important to us, is, you know, from working at home, the shredding services do not exist at home. So we are requiring our people to not discard client confidential information in a weekly garbage. So we need to, if you are going to make photocopies at home, can you put it off to the side? And then when we do get back to a little bit of normal operation, when people are back in the office, just bring it to the office, and then we'll be able to properly shred it and discard that confidential information.
Okay. And David, I'm going to back up a little bit. You were talking about the CARES Act and maybe the payroll protection program. And I know that you're providing a lot of information, a lot of counsel to your clients. Is there anything coming out of Washington that relates to remote work, anything that you're doing that you think others should be aware of? You know, is payroll protection program, is that helping more employers keep their staff? And if they're able to work remotely, then it's probably an adjustment, but it's not a major shift. But there may be instances where you have some clients who are in the manufacturing sector, and, you know, maybe there are parts of the CARES Act that are helping them, but from a remote work standpoint, their whole way of operating has changed, and they may not be able to do things like, say, those who are in your field who have already been working remotely, and now they're just spending more time working remotely. So just any thoughts you have about the CARES Act and the payroll protection program as it pertains to remote work?
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the things we're doing is we're spending a lot of time advising clients on how to access some of this relief. You know, everybody, the thing that's interesting that's happening now is there's a cascading effect. It's a domino effect. And we work with so many different industries that we're seeing the impact across all industries. You know, so when restaurants and hotels are closing down, that's impacting, you know, obviously the employees, but it's impacting the food service providers. the distributors, manufacturing, distribution channels, real estate. It's impacting real estate. We have a big real estate and construction practice, retail and consumers. So there is such a dramatic impact from what's happening here. And, you know, you can see the millions and millions and millions of jobs that are being lost. We have a legislative aid that is on Capitol Hill that's trying to drive some of the stuff that's going on. There's ongoing relief being discussed as we speak. With the small business program, there is payroll relief available. And then for mid-sized companies, 500 to 10,000, there's a lot of different types of programs out there. So we're helping clients through these programs. The other thing I want to point out also is we're advising clients on the variable expenses, non-essential expenses, and that also is impacting the economy because every business has non-essential expenses, and then that impacts all of the different service providers and vendors that are out there, and their businesses get impacted. So everybody's got to look at preserving cash. Everybody's got to look at dealing with your lenders, your investors, and your landlords. And, you know, there's an impact throughout the whole entire food chain in this regard. So we're very much involved with being on the forefront of what's happening and trying to interpret, because as the legislation comes out, the regulations haven't been finalized. So there's a period of time where you really have to navigate through all this stuff.
All right, so I wanted to ask Stephen a question about what's going on locally, but before I do, I just want to remind our viewers that if you have any questions for David or Stephen, just send us a message and we will try and get to it before we finish here today. And also a reminder that this is recorded and it'll be available on demand after we're done this afternoon. So, Stephen, if you could tell us, I know you do a lot of work in the construction and real estate industries, and if you could share anything that you're focused on now during the pandemic with those industries or other industries, and anything else that's going on here in Westchester that you're getting involved with that you think others should be aware of.
Sure. Yeah, I'm the Northeast leader of the construction industry practice, so I have a very close relationship with all of the significant contractors in the local marketplace. You know, for the most part, they've been coming off of a 5-year positive run, so they are pretty well capitalized to weather some of this storm. You know, many of their jobs have been stopped currently. The heavy civil contractors have some work ongoing for emergency purposes, and everybody's in a wait and see. You know, everybody's very eager to get back out there to continue with the construction activity. They're hoping that the activity startup will work closely with the loans being generated from the payroll protection program. You know, with the purpose of forgiveness after the 8-week period, and they're hoping that aligns pretty well. The other thing, you know, in Westchester, as we know, you know, the medical, the healthcare industry is really, you know, the most significant employer, you know, in the Westchester County marketplace. And I just want to point out, you have a situation currently that hopefully we're nearing or at the apex of the COVID pandemic, and the hospital emergency rooms are being flooded at historic rates. On the flip side, due to the social distancing, no one is going to see the doctors unless it is emergent. So you have two segments moving in opposite directions, and you know, the physicians and clinics have had patient volume drop about 50 to 60%, and are looking at wage reductions to stay alive. Hospitals are seeing a dip in elective surgeries, but overloaded in their emergency rooms and expecting huge admissions, not enough staff, and a lack of equipment and supplies. Each of these segments have different needs. So again, you know, we have expertise within our advisory group that could help, you know, employers navigate through the decision-making process, but it's complicated.
Yes, there's a lot of information flowing, and it's very hard to try and process it all in real time and keep up with it all. So talking about keeping up with it all, I was visiting the CohnReznick.com website, and you have a COVID-19 page, and just wanted to ask you, David, how important is that to get that information out to your clients and your employees? And if you're getting any feedback on the information that you're putting on your website and getting out through other channels?
Yeah, absolutely, Jason. Thanks for pointing that out. And it's very important to not only look at our website and get all the information you can that's available to help your business, but also all the other information that's out there. We've been conducting webinars. We've been doing industry-specific seminars for clients and friends to understand what's available and how to navigate through this time. There's a period of, we call it the now, the new, and the next. And you really have to figure out how are you going to deal with the now. And sometimes it's really helpful to have perspectives from beyond what you're used to. We're finding that businesses, the first thing you need to do is protect your employees. That's the most important thing. Protect your employees, figure out ways to do that. And if you get rid of non-essential expenses, take advantage of the government programs that are out there, use somebody to help you take advantage of these programs, to understand them and what's available to you. And then diversification is becoming extremely important. If you look at all the businesses that are having to reinvent themselves on the fly right now, and then insurance requirements, very significant. A lot of people don't understand what's in their insurance policies and what remedies that they have. But, we're seeing restaurants and other businesses, including our own, convert into different revenue streams at a necessity. And now you have delivery and walk up, and I think there's going to be a whole new view of how to deal with the now, but also what the next step is, and then how to create some diversification and risk mitigation for the future.
All right. And Stephen, any thoughts on that as well, with the information that you have on your website and the different ways you're sharing information with your clients and your colleagues, if you're getting any feedback from them?
I think people are very appreciative of all the special efforts that, the entire CohnReznick team has been putting forth. This whole process with the payroll protection program is a great example. With things changing constantly and not being clear and moving quickly, our clients, it's a great time to strengthen that trusted business advisor role that we play with our clients. It's extremely important. People are appreciative. Our resource page started out with 1 or 2 items, and now when you look at it, you can spend a week reading through everything, but we try to make it easy to navigate, up to date, and very pertinent. So, I strongly encourage anybody and everybody to take a look at it.
Yeah, I think we're all getting a lot of emails, a lot of information from different sources, and I try and look at a lot of different websites and go through a lot of different emails, because it seems that there's always something to learn. There's always some resource, there's always some program that I wasn't aware of, and that's why it's always good to go through a lot of that information. So we have our first viewer question, and I'll start with David, and then Stephen, if you want to add. It's about the payroll protection program, and I know that a lot of people are trying to understand the program, and the question is regarding furloughs. So if some people have been laid off and they're still trying to apply for the payroll protection program, what happens to those who were furloughed? Do you have any advice for those who are trying to make those decisions because they don't know how long it'll be until they get some funds from the federal government in order to take care of their employees?
Yeah, I'll start and I'll let Stephen chime in. First of all, it's a great question, and there's a look forward, and the payroll protection program is designed to create funds for businesses to retain their employees And there's a look forward period. So if they've been furloughed, they certainly can be brought back. And then also there's a component of the program that creates a loan forgiveness. So in order to take advantage of that loan forgiveness, you have to satisfy certain requirements that deal with the level of employees that you were at when the payroll protection plan was rolled out.
Yeah, if I can add, David, I've been working on this payroll protection program for the last week and a half. And I mentioned before a lot of changes here and there, but we feel that the SBA now has put out a very clear, much clearer interpretation of how to navigate through it. And I would emphasize that if there's any small business that has less than 500 employees, you definitely should be looking at this program. It effectively allows you to take a loan that's equivalent to 2.5 times an average monthly payroll cost from last year. Okay, and then if you then use it for qualified purposes over the following 8 weeks, then you can qualify for the loan forgiveness. It's a little more complicated than that, so I'm just trying to give a very general overview. Now, the only thing I will add, even though it's obviously well intended, in dealing with the restaurant and hotel industries, when the business is totally closed right now, there is a significant concern that, yes, you can qualify for the loan, get the loan, but if the doors are still closed, how is it that you can think about bringing on people, employees, to be able to be actively back at work within that 8-week period? So there still is some concern. It works well for the contractor industry, which I serve, because some still have current work on hand, and they expect that everything should open up fairly quick for them to be able to continue and take advantage of that provision within the CARES Act.
Well, it just goes to show how valuable expertise is. So I'm really grateful that you're able to share all of your expertise and remind our viewers and others that there are professionals out there who spend all day long trying to understand new programs and new legislation, and you always want to get professionals to help you with this so you're not making decisions in a vacuum, especially critical business decisions that could have long-term impacts. So we're almost done, but before we finish, I just wanted to give both of you the opportunity, if there's anything we haven't covered today that you think would be really important to share with our viewers about remote work and some other topical issues.
I can start. I would say, one of the things that I think is so important is take care of yourselves, take care of your health, and try to find a balance. It's easy to get sucked in behind your computer screen, and communicate to your coworkers. Make sure that they have everything they need. That's one of the things we're very concerned with, is making sure that everybody, not only professionally that they have what they need, but that personally that they're being taken care of. And I would say just communicate.
I would add to that, at CohnReznick, we have a sense of purpose to create opportunities for our people, make a difference for our clients, and to strengthen our community. And I truly believe now is the time to give back to our communities in this time of need. David had mentioned it before, but I also would like to give a special thank you to the healthcare workers and other first responders. Whatever challenges we may have in working remotely, it pales in comparison to those on the front lines that are keeping us safe. We owe them an enormous debt of gratitude, so I'd like to thank them.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Really, and we have so many heroes on the front line, healthcare, and we have our fire department, EMS, and there are lots of other people, whether it's grocery stores or those who are doing all the shipping and delivery, so that those who can't go out or have reluctance to go out are getting everything they need delivered to them, and of course, security and other police force and so forth. So I thought we were going to wrap up. 2 more questions just came in. So I'd like to ask the first one to David, and then also maybe I'll ask the second one to Stephen. So the next question is, other than hospitality, which group of your clients seem to be impacted the most by the current crisis?
What a great question. Yeah, hospitality, clearly the most, restaurants and hotels. And then I would say after that, everybody's impacted to some degree. Construction, there's a slowdown. And with the social distancing and everything else, manufacturing and distribution, you have the same issues with social distancing. Retail, consumer, probably would be the next one after hotel and hospitality. You read what's happening, with retail and, just the consumer spending is overall just, not what it was, because people aren't getting out. And then I think we're going to have to wait and see what the near-term impact is for other industries, like life sciences and technology and financial services. But I think we'll just have to wait and see. And hopefully the CARES Act and relief is going to provide the level setting that we need across the entire economy. And it's starting with employees, it's starting with individuals, and we're going to have to see relief throughout the whole entire system, because when folks can't pay their mortgages, there has to be relief on the other side with the lenders, and the lenders have to have relief on the other side with their investors and securitizations and things like that. So what I said about the cascading effect is we're going to have to find solutions to really prop up the entire economy to get through this. And I think it's going to be a slower recovery as people adjust to being outside in larger crowds. And I think there's going to be a confidence that's going to have to be built up, because, we don't want to have another outbreak of this. That'll set us back further.
All right. So, David, your part of your answer about the federal government response, I'm going to use as a segue to our next question, which I want to ask Stephen to answer. So as Congress considers additional stimulus, what is the number one thing the federal government can do to help? Double down on PPP, something else?
Well, obviously the federal government is going to come up with round 4 of the funding. We also have FEMA, and we also have additional clarifications of the existing CARES Act. So what I see happening is initially, with that PPP program, the Payroll Protection Program, that's slotted for $349 billion. We all expect the demand to be north of that number. And we do expect, it's not guaranteed right now, but we do expect that that amount will be increased with the round 4 funding process. I also think that the round 4 will cover more of the mid-sized companies that were not eligible to take advantage of the PPP. And so there is still going to be the need, a very substantial need for the government to keep stepping up and to fund the economy so that, we can properly work through this as long as it takes and end up in a better spot at the end of the day.
Wise words. And David, another question came in. So I want to ask you to answer this one. If a business does not have a current relationship with a commercial bank, where can they go to access PPP?
It's a great question because a lot of the banks have put a priority on customers that they have pre-existing relationships with. And, you know, I think it's a very good question. Certain banks have come out and said, because there was a lot of criticism on that, you know, we'll look at everybody's application, so send it in. But, you know, you feel free to call us, and we have relationships throughout the country with different banking institutions, and there also are non-bank enterprises that can provide these PPP loans. So we'll be happy to assist. But, you know, it's encouraging to see that the banks have come out and said, okay, even if you're not a customer, we'll take your application. The problem with that is there wasn't enough funding right out of the chute. So most banks received more demand than they could possibly process. So that's one of the things we're looking for from a round 4 with additional funding.
All right, round 4 reminds me of a boxing match. So how many more rounds do we have to go? So I want to give Stephen the opportunity to cover anything else that I didn't ask about, anything else we haven't discussed that you think would be helpful for the viewers.
The one topic that we didn't touch on, which I think is extremely important in this environment, is cybersecurity. You know, in recent weeks, cybersecurity incidents have increased, you know, due to the transition to the remote workplace. You know, the bad guys thrive in times like this with the heightened anxiety and confusion. So it's definitely an area that everybody needs to be concerned about, especially with this remote working remotely. So it's an important topic.
All right. Well, I know that I just spent quality time with 2 experts who really helped me understand things a lot better and provided a very hopeful message that you're here to help and there are others who can help and that we're going to help each other get through this. So David and Stephen, I want to thank you very much for giving us your time and sharing your knowledge. And I also want to thank our Platinum sponsors for making this possible. And also thank our viewers for joining us, and we look forward to doing more video chats. And thank you again, and take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.